I'm Ashley.
I'm Tiffany.
I'm Gene.
I'm Dot.
I'm Colton.
I'm Rob.
And I'm Shannon.
When we think of agriculture, what do we think of? Do we think of it in terms of this is somebody's living, or do we think of this is how our country feeds itself, or do we think of it as a better option for us? Many of us don't think of it that way. People who are involved with agriculture often do. But for example, a lawyer in New York City, when he goes to a grocery store and he picks up some produce, does he think, this probably comes from a foreign country or being shipped here from somewhere else? Does he think, there's a better option, there's a healthier option, there's something that could benefit me more? Does he think something like this, produce from a small local farm, does he think this is going to taste better, it's going to be cheaper? Usually we don't think of it that way. Because I'm a member of 4-H and the way I was raised, it's a big part of my life, and I daily encounter agricultural scenarios. But people who live in a subdivision often don't. We all like to eat, and we all care about the future for our children. So shouldn't we want to do something that keeps our nation's local food source growing and thriving? If we take a look at the definition for the words conserving and agriculture, we can have a little bit better idea of what we're looking at. According to dictionary.com, one of the definitions for the word conserving is the prevention of loss. Looking at one of the definitions for agriculture, we see that it means the production of crops. Consequently, if we put the two together, we're going to come up with preventing the loss of crop production. With the lack of support to small farms, they're going to decrease. It's a very easy thing to think of. If you're not putting into something, you're not going to be getting a benefit. It's not going to grow, it's going to shrink. With small farms shrinking, we're going to have food prices going higher, and it's going to have access to it's going to make access to get fresh fruits harder. According to the United States Department of Agriculture, also known as the USDA, in the year 1960, there were 3,962,520 farms. By 2011, that number had dropped to 2,181,000. For the past 51 years, there has been an almost constant drop in the number of farms in America. If we look at an article by Wendy Fransconi and Taylor Stein, published by the University of Florida's IFAS Extension, we learn Florida is one of the nation's top 10 most productive agricultural states. However, small and medium-sized family farms in Florida are undergoing the same economic crisis as other farms in America. In order for these small families to continue to thrive, they need our support now before it's too late. Because of the lack of financial support, many families and farmers are being forced off their land. This is happening by the thousands every year, according to Farmers Aid. Meanwhile, future generations are also going to be affected by these results. If we look at this chart from the USDA, we see that in the year 1910, there was just over 6 million farms. 50 years later, this number had dropped by 2 million, being, in the year 1960, 4 million farms. Then 40 years later, we had another 2 million drop, at 2000, with approximately 2 million farms. So if we look at this, we're seeing that it is constantly dropping in America. The number of farms are constantly dropping in America. And it's also dropping at a more rapid pace. So if we think about it, in 20 years, how many farms are going to be left? 1 million to support a growing population in America? J.E. Urquhart, a professor of agricultural economics at the University of Missouri made an excellent point in one of his articles. In the long run, a nation that cannot feed itself is no more secure than a nation that cannot defend itself. That being said, America needs to make sure to keep agriculture thriving in our country. As one of the most efficient and productive countries in the world, it would be a shame for us to fall from this title simply because we cannot feed ourselves. In order to fight against this growing epidemic of agricultural loss, we need to find out about the local farms that we can support. For example, during strawberry and blueberry seasons, it would be a great time to support local farms. By going to a small farm and picking local produce, we are going to be getting fresher fruit. It's going to benefit us because it's going to be fresher, it's going to taste better, and it's also going to be less expensive than buying it at the grocery store. And it's also going to benefit the small farm. It'll be benefiting future generations if you take your family with you and you show your children this is how we keep agriculture thriving. The local Strawberry Festival is also a great way to it's a great way to support local farms. The Strawberry Festival in Plant City has many farmers coming together to show their produce, and by doing this, you're going to be supporting them. By checking into a local 4-H extension office is also a great way to do it. 4-H extension agents are very familiar with agriculture and bringing the community and family farm together. So by contacting them, you could learn of small farms that are in need of support. So by participating in any of these activities I mentioned, as well as others, you're going to be benefiting yourself as well as the small farm. The small farm is going to be benefiting by this because you're going to be helping them make a profit this year, which will help them plant crops next year and make a profit to plant them the next year. And if more people become involved in supporting farms and buying produce, that means there's going to be more of a demand, which is going to bring more crops into, there's going to be more of a need for larger crops. So it's pretty much a ripple effect. Another great way would be to become involved with programs such as 4-H or FFA. FFA stands for Future Farmers of America. These programs pretty much help young people and school-age children learn about agriculture and the different resources used for agriculture, from types of agriculture such as crops to livestock to forestry, etc. So if you have agricultural knowledge, it's great to bring that into the young people of today and reach out to our society. So by looking at the definition of conserving agriculture, we learned it really can be quite effortless. It might sound harder, but there isn't that much involved, and you're going to be benefiting yourself, benefiting our country, and benefiting the future generations. So because of this, our support is needed to keep these small farms thriving and keep the number of farms increasing instead of decreasing. If we rally together to support the small farms and educate our children of today, we're going to be taking a step in the right direction and having agriculture thrive in America. So I thank you all for coming out to listen to my speech, and I hope you enjoyed it and learned something. So I'd like to hear from my audience now. Was everyone able to hear me clearly?
Yes.
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 I'd like your feedback. Was there any points that I made that really stood out to you, or could I made some points better or improved on anything? Ashley?
I thought it was good.
I thought it was good too.
Very informative.
I thought it was very informative, and I like the point of, especially the chart showing our farms decreasing. It really makes you realize that we won't have food if we don't have farmers.
Cool.
I think it's very good.
Yeah, I think it was good. You had a lot of facts that you presented, and you brought it down to the individual, so we know how we can actually help in this to help support the farmers.
I thought it was very interesting and brought awareness to it for our country, and you were very convincing and did your research. I think you did very well.
Well, again, I thank you all for coming out here, and I thank you for your advice, and I hope you all have a great day.